1. I was a paralegal for 20 years at my brother-in-law's law firm. On this particular day, the receptionist was out sick, so I was filling in for her and performing my work from her desk in the front office and reception area. I was intently focused on the motion I was putting together for court on the computer, when I suddenly had a tingling chill go throughout my entire body. Strange. I stopped, looked up, and was startled to see this crazy, scary lady, 65 to 70 years old, standing at the reception window just glaring at me with bloodshot eyes. I nearly jumped out of my seat. She had wild, gray, curly hair sticking out all over her head. Heavy, pasty, pale makeup. Heavy black liner around her eyes. She looked like a zombie. She had multiple layers of clothing on, sweaters, vests, pants, a skirt, and scarves. Very strange attire. Think of a really scary homeless version of Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians. I thought to myself, no wonder I felt a huge chill. I have just met the devil incarnate right here. If evil has a look, she nailed it perfectly. I open the reception window and ask if she has an appointment. Hell no, I don't have an appointment. I don't need an appointment. I'm here to fire and get rid of my sister's no-good attorney, Sam Clark, once and for all. I was a bit taken aback by this, so I asked if she wanted to speak directly with Mr. Clark. She starts pulling her hair, hitting her chest as she screams, Hell yes, I want to talk to him. What do you think I'm here for? I've had it with him and the fucking games he's playing with my sister. I'm just flabbergasted at this point, thinking, what the hell is going on here and who is this woman? So I tell her, I'll need your name and your sister's name to tell Mr. You just tell Sam that Julia McKenna is here to fire him as Lydia McKenna's lawyer. You got that? Yes, ma'am. And I go into Sam's office. I tell Sam everything that I had just encountered at the reception desk, including describing how she looks and the bizarre chills. I totally believe you. He explained that Lydia had actually hired him to sue her scary, manipulative, controlling sister Julia, who was standing in our reception area. Oh yes. I cracked up too. That is, until I realized that I now have the fun job of telling this crazy, scary woman in our reception area that Sam will address her only in the presence of her attorney. I relayed that exact message, endured her frenzied rant for about 5 minutes, and then left. The office was pleasingly quiet after that. 2. Before we begin, I'd just like to add, please, whenever possible, get your dogs chipped, so that if they go lost or are stolen, you're able to find them more easily, and the culprits are able to be caught and punished. Now on with the story. This happened right after Christmas of 2020. First, I'll give a little backstory. Early in October of the previous year, my stepson and his girlfriend and son were being kicked out of their home. My wife, his mother, offered to let him stay with us. She is disabled, and I'm mostly retired. I only work 36 hours a week over 3 days. This is relevant later. While moving in, my stepson, being notorious for being unable to simply get everything he needs before leaving to go anywhere, has to run in and out of the house 100 times at least. He left his car running, and my 2 dogs got obviously excited about it. They love car rides, except they didn't understand they weren't going on a ride with him. They ran down the road because they decided not to wait for him, and they walked the mile down the road to the river. Before anyone caps me for this, I live in the deep country mountains with less than 500 people in my town, so I don't usually mind them taking off to go swimming. This day, though, some well-meaning kid didn't realize my dogs were not strays and managed to take one of them. First of my dogs isn't people-friendly, but not people-aggressive, and the second is very people-friendly. He was less than 2 years old when this kid found him and decided to take care of him. I got home right after work and found my dog was missing. I was devastated because I had raised him from a month old. Don't worry, this part has a happy ending. After 4 months, I got him back. This leads me into the second half of the backstory. While my dog was still missing, I was searching for him and came across a shelter 200 miles north of me on Facebook. There I found another dog I just fell in love with. I made arrangements with the shelter to adopt her. This was Monday before Thanksgiving that year. She was so loving and sweet. Maybe it was the emotions of having lost my other dog that caused me to want her so badly. I did all the adoption paperwork, including getting her fixed. I also get her microchipped. By Christmas 2019, she was legally mine. Now on with the story. By this time, I had retrieved my lost dog, and my wife had decided to let all three out to play. Keep in mind that at this time, I only had the new dog for 3 months, so she was still learning her boundaries. 2 of my dogs decided they wanted back inside, which left her out by herself. I got home from work that night and saw her at the doorstep of one of the 3 rental cabins nearby. I stopped and called for her. She immediately ran to me and jumped into my truck. I purposely made eye contact with the renters to make note of them and to make sure they knew I am her owner. When I called for her, I called her by name. Again, this was to establish ownership with the renters. The next night, I got home from work and she wasn't home. I looked around for her and called her. She didn't come to me. My wife told me she had went out roughly 30 minutes before I got home. I figured she probably returned to the cabin across the street from where the renters are staying. She was there inside their rental cabin. They gave her back to me with protest. "Hi, sorry to bother you, but did my dog come back here?" I showed them a picture of her on my cell phone. "Yeah, she's here. Can I have her back?" At this point, he starts with an ignorant tone. "Yeah, she looked hungry, so we fed her." "Thanks. It is time for her dinner." "She looks skinny. You need to take better care of her." I'm getting annoyed. I do take care of her and she eats very well. She just runs a lot and doesn't gain a lot of weight. "You need to keep her in your yard and fenced in. I have several dogs, so I know how to take care of dogs." At this point, my dog walks up to me, oblivious to the problem she's causing. I kneel down and pet her and gave her a smile. She loves that. I start to walk away with her, but she looks like she wants to stay, so she's not keeping up with me. I scoop her up and carry her to my truck. "You need to keep her home, or I'll take her home with me." I didn't really hear that part. This was relayed to me later. I put her in my truck and drive back home. My driveway is steep and 500 foot long. Its entrance is farther from the entrance to the rental cabin driveway. Remember, I just worked a 12-hour shift with an hour drive both ways. When I got back home, I thought about the interaction with the renter and got more angry. I knew that if she went down there again, it might not be so easy to get her back. I decided to call the police. They sent out an officer who, at the time unknown to me, was a canine officer. "Hello, LP. How may I help you today?" I gave the officer a detailed recounting of the interaction with the renter, excluding his last remark since I didn't hear it. "I see. May I see the dog in question and any adoption paperwork you have?" I'm perplexed, but I show him the papers. Yes, here's the adoption papers and her medical records for her being fixed, as well as the microchip info that the shelter didn't require for adoption. The officer looks at the paperwork. "It all looks in order?" He laughs as my dog, being the friendly little girl she is, jumps up and puts her front paws on his stomach ever so gently. "She looks healthy to me and well cared for. I don't believe anyone would go through all the trouble you did to adopt her and spend all the money you did just to starve her." I took out my cell phone and showed him the pictures I took of the day I brought her home, to further explain the progress she's made in the past 3 months, as well as my absolute favorite picture I took of all 3 of them. It genuinely looks like she's smiling in that picture. Yeah, she means a lot to me, and my wife cooks for them in the kitchen to mix in with their dog food, so they would have a better meal. "I'll go have a talk with them and explain the situation. If you have any more trouble, please call the station back and ask for me. I'll personally come and help you resolve it. Just do me one favor. Fix up your fence so your dogs don't get loose anymore." "I will, and thanks." We shook hands and he left to talk to the renters. I couldn't hear what was being said, so the conversation comes from the police report I got later. "Hello, I'm with the local police force." "And renter." I don't know the exact conversation, but I did see the officer walk back and forth between his cruiser and the cabin a few more times. From the renter's body language, it was obvious he was getting very agitated. Police in my time were friendly to a fault, but when outsiders come in and start causing problems with the locals, they tend to get very unfriendly very quickly. From the report. In this state, dogs are private property, and if you attempt to take a dog without permission, you are subject to criminal charges. I don't live in this state, and the laws are different there. Besides, I'm leaving soon, and if that dog is here again, I'll take her back with me. There's nothing you in this hick town can do about it. The report doesn't detail the rest of the conversation, except for the officer's final remark. When you're ready to leave, I'll personally escort you to the state line. Have a nice day. The officer returned to my place and looked visibly agitated. He drew a deep breath to calm himself down before speaking. You won't have anything else to worry about from them. They're leaving in a couple of days, but I recommend that you keep a close eye on your dogs until then. I'll do that. Thanks for your help. He told me that his mother liked your dog, and he really wanted to keep her since she was such a nice dog. That's why they threatened to keep her if she showed up at their rental again. What? He's going to keep her and refuse to give her back. Yes, he was quite belligerent. It felt like his state laws would protect him from our state laws, since we're a small hick town and he's from a big city. The look on his face told me how insulted the officer felt about that remark, as the people here take pride in their job and their relationship with the local community. Some people just don't realize that just because you cross state lines that you're still subject to the laws of the state they're in. Right, and if you need anything else, feel free to ask. I'm good, and I'll keep my eyes on her till they leave. He gets back in his cruiser and heads out. He waves and I go back inside. I'm shaking in anger, not believing the audacity this person had, thinking he could just take my dog. I began making plans to really fence in my yard. I wish I could say that was the end of it, but no. The next day I went to the rental company in town after getting the police report and had a meeting with the manager on duty. Yes, I had a Karen moment and asked to speak with the manager. But this was legitimate, and I knew the desk clerk didn't have the power to handle my issue. You're the manager? Yes, how may I help you today? I hold out the police report and take a deep breath. The poor woman is about to get an earful from me about the behavior of her client. She doesn't deserve to be yelled at, so I try to keep calm. I had a problem with one of your renters yesterday. It escalated into me being forced to call the police. I hand her the copy of the report. She looks very upset and reads it. I take another deep breath since I don't want to take my anger out on this undeserving woman just trying to do her job. This happened twice, and the second time they had her inside their rental cabin. When I entered the office, I had taken the time to read the policy for renting their cabin and saw exactly what I was looking for. Your policy does state that these cabins are not pet-friendly, and they would be subject to fines if they bring animals into their cabins, yes? Without looking back at me, she nodded. She looked visibly more dismayed as she finished reading the report. May I have a copy of this report? Yes, I'm not trying to hold you accountable for this, as long as this doesn't happen again. I know the renters sometimes act up and don't follow the rules. Yes, you're right. The manager goes to the copier and makes a copy of the police report and hands back the original to me. She looks deeply apologetic. I will contact them and inform them they are in violation of the policies they agreed to when they signed for the cabin, and if they violate it again, they will be evicted immediately. She takes a card from the desk and hands it to me. I'm much more calm by this point and more comfortable talking to her. If they take your dog again, please call and ask for me, and I'll personally handle them. Thank you. I'm so sorry to do this to you, but I felt you needed to know of this problem in the event I need to take legal action against the renters. I understand and appreciate you giving me this. I'll keep it on file, and please accept my apologies for your troubles. It's okay, I don't blame you at all. She smiles, realizing I'm not there to take legal action against the company. She glances at the clerk. We will reinforce the policies of no pets in our rentals, and make sure no one takes any pets from local owners. I thank her and leave. The story still isn't over. Later that day, I let my dogs out to play, and this time I watch over them closely. 2 of them stay in the yard to play. My little friendly girl sprints down to the rental again, not aware she has caused all this trouble. I hear the entitled man tell her to go home. I can see him through the trees in my property, and watch to make sure he doesn't do anything to her. I call her back. She trots back through the woods and goes back inside. She is disappointed that she can't spend time with her new friends. She's a friendly dog who just loves attention, and this causes me so much distress that she doesn't understand. So in the end, the entitled renters leave and my dogs are home safe. They're not happy, as I've built a fence to keep them home, which prevents them from easily running down to the river for a swim. But they don't hold it against me. 3. Now that my NDA is over, I figured I could finally share a great story that happened last summer while I was working as a supporting actor. I'm still not going to say the name of the TV show, because they're run by a huge media company, but it was a very big, critically acclaimed US TV show. I, 21 and female at the time, had been working as a supporting actor, basically a glorified extra, for a few years. And last summer I was cast for a new season of this big TV show. I was cast as a European-looking concert staff and music tech for an episode based around a concert. I was asked to bring outfit choices, so I borrowed a few items of clothing and accessories that were my boyfriend's, as he actually works as a sound engineer and videographer. On the first day of filming, the wardrobe department chose which clothing I should wear and approved my accessories, etc. They were commenting on how good and realistic I looked, and I told them it was because I was cast to act in the same job my boyfriend usually does, which they found entertaining. A few times around that day, I had other supporting actors come up to me asking for direction and questions about where they should go, and I told them I was only dressed like this for the role and was a supporting actor like them. They thought it was hilarious and apologized. Around the third scene we shot on the day, I was given my directions again, and had specific instructions on what to carry, who to pretend to talk to and when, etc. Normal background stuff. Action was called for the scene, and the cameras were rolling. It was then that I hear a member of the actual production staff hiss at me, "Get out of the shot!" I looked confused, but I continued doing what I was meant to, so I didn't cause a retake. I had to pick up some electrical cables, walk through the main actors, and walk out the door with them. I picked up the cables and heard it, "Stop it! What are you doing?" This woman was talking in that annoyingly hissy loud whisper, and everyone could hear. I ignored because it is literally my job to, and walked through the main cast and out the door. I paused on the other side of the door and waited for cut. As soon as the production called cut, I walked back to my initial placement to shoot the scene again, only to see this woman running towards me. She is still trying to keep her voice down, but screeches at me, "What the hell do you think you're doing? You can't just walk across the set when the camera's rolling. You can move this stuff later." I stood back, stunned, and just scoffed. As soon as it sunk in that she had mistaken me for actual production staff, I nervously laughed and just said, meant to? I'm an actor?" Her face was priceless. She asked why my outfit was so realistic, and I told her about my partner's job. She was incredibly embarrassed as her speaking caused the scene to be shot again. All of the production staff and the very famous main cast watched this happen and started smiling. I just walked back to my starting position and got ready for the next shot. From then on, the production team all recognized me and said hi, making jokes about how I was trying to steal their jobs. Even the 3 main cast members, who I massively idolized, began chatting to me between takes and joking around, and generally not being the Hollywood jerks I was worried they might be. I didn't see the woman again for the week I was filming, and continue being friendly on set with the 3 famous guys, one of whom I had the pleasure of taking smoke breaks with a couple of times. All in all, I'm glad she was a jerk because my whole time filming was so much more fun, and I got smoke breaks with one of my favorite actors ever. 4. I, 30 and male, have married my wife, 31 and female, this year. We thought things would be easier after that since we both rented different places, and by living together, expected to save at least a little bit extra monthly on bills. However, I've also received notice from the real estate agent that the apartment's owner is willing to sell it. As a couple, we didn't discuss much about buying a new property since we're still paying for the wedding party. However, I got surprised by the selling prices in the building we live, so we started looking at the selling units, especially those facing the back side of the building, prettier view and less sun. I had migraine problems in the past in another building due to the inner temp being insanely hot. Surprisingly, we found the unit immediately downstairs selling for a reasonable price. We contacted the real estate agent and moved on with the transaction. Everything was cloud 9. We even had the assistance of a financial consultancy for free. Apparently these guys get paid directly by the banks, who could tell. All was great until we finally signed the loan contract and the transaction was virtually finished. Only thing left was to receive the keys. The seller, entitled seller, told us she waited to give a 30-day notice to her current tenants, so I would have to wait 30 days to receive those keys. Since the apartment was officially mine, had documentation to prove, I was slightly pissed, but shrugged since I understand the tenant's side. Interesting story how this particular tenant found all other apartments in the building very expensive to rent, and in the end had to rent a house almost double the unit's monthly price, because all other units were just rented out by other people. Right before the tenant moving out of the unit, we received news that the apartment was not going to be painted because their renting contract stated that is not mandatory. At this moment I got livid, had to wait 30 days after being officially the owner, and would also have to paint over someone else's mess. The cherry on top was the entitled seller telling us that she would need a few extra days to get her furniture out of the place. According to my country's laws, any furniture inside the apartment after being sold is now the owner's property. So I was even doing her a favor to let her pick up her stuff. I thought this would stop there. Oh boy, how I was wrong. Entitled seller asked to deliver the keys almost 2 weeks after the agreed deadline, which was already after the previous tenant's moving out deadline day. I didn't care what she had to say. I contacted my wife's family lawyer and explained the situation. According to him, apparently I had a case in hands, worth at least $25,000 plus in fines. After knowing this, I told the entitled seller that if I didn't receive the keys on the original agreed date, I'd give the green light to my lawyer to go for it. It's surprising how entitled people give up under legal pressure. Entitled seller turned in the keys early in the agreed date, but not after hiring a painter to work on the apartment, which was not hers anymore, and I didn't approve. This week, when we first entered the apartment to evaluate its conditions in detail, we bought it with tenants living in it, there was more paint on the ceramic floor than on the wall. Didn't see a crappy job like this ever in my life. Cherry on top of the cherry, entitled seller left a huge dresser inside one of the bedrooms, and is coming back to get it this week. Mind you, both bedrooms have wooden floor, and I was hoping to hire someone to get them sanded and treat it to look decent. However, the huge dresser is obviously in the way. Told her that if she didn't come and get this stupid piece of crap, I'd turn it into a big pile of firewood. 5. I used to work as a cashier at a bread bakery during my last 2 years of high school, 2020 to 2021. So I started right around when COVID hit the planet. Over the time, medical masks became mandatory in Germany, so simple fabric ones wouldn't do in public stores. As always, there are many people reluctant or simply too dense to know how to wear a mask correctly, covering your mouth and nose. Every time a customer came in with no mask or wearing one under their nose, we'd kindly remind them to put one on. There were always mixed reactions, ranging from, "Sorry, my bad," to eye-rolling and exasperated sighs. Actual rude comments were pretty sparse, luckily. While this particular encounter seemed to have made up for the lack of snide remarks before, the rush hour in the afternoon had just started to settle down again, as this lady struts into the room, wallet in one hand, water bottle in the other. Not only was she wearing the mask under her nose, but it was also a cloth and not a medical one. She'd already gave a weird vibe since the store was empty, except for her, me, and my coworker, who was on break in the back room. I let the cloth mask slide and just opted for reminding her to, "Please pull up the mask above your nose, ma'am, thank you." That seemed to have been the wrong thing to say, and Karen exploded, "No, I will not. I am exempt from wearing one by my doctor. I wouldn't even have to wear one at all." Due to data protection, I can ask for proof, but she is not obligated to show me. But I thought it could never hurt to ask, right? Wrong. "I don't have to show you anything, you little brat. I come in here every week and you should know me by now. What is wrong with you? Did you hit your head or something?" I learned from my coworker that normally Karen came in only at some point during the middle of the week and not on a Saturday, and I only worked weekend shifts and I had never met her before. "I'm sorry, ma'am, I wasn't aware of your doctor's note." It's not like she had a magically glowing or pointing sign above her head, and I am not a psychic. "Please, someone tell me how I was supposed to know that." That was when the insults started. "Well, you should. You young people are all the same. Stupid and uneducated, and the world has gone wrong because of idiots like you. You don't deserve this job. There must be something actually wrong with you. You know nothing. You should be taken away so that you can be properly put in your place and for you to learn respect, since you idiot child, you don't seem to have any. She started waving her hands around while screaming at me. She threw her wallet on the counter so that she could point her spindly fingers at my face. Why do you even bother to work here if you don't have people skills? You don't deserve it. Do everyone a favor and go away. As she said that, her arm lunged backwards as if she was about to throw her bottle at me, and I flinched away. Yes, cower, you little bitch. I don't want to see you anymore. Go away and get me a different server. With that, I turned around to go to the break room and promptly have a nosebleed, while my coworker went outside to throw her out. Please remember that the world doesn't revolve around you. Not everyone knows who you are, and people can't read fucking minds. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 57. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do share it around with everyone you know, all your friends and family, your mortal enemies, any former bosses, people you once stepped over in the street, just anywhere you can get it out. Every view counts. We're not shy around here. Every view counts. Okay, let's see. Now, no shout-outs for today. Just shout-outs to all you lovely people, because lovely people. We do, however, have a question. This was suggested by Shagar, my moderator, and today is favourite fantasy pets. You know, like a unicorn, like a hellhound, that sort of thing. A hellhound would be good for home protection. They're also invisible sometimes, so you know they could surprise people. So, which would you have if you could have a fantasy pet? Answer down below in the comments. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.